Robert, we're going to need to stop recording the podcast. I don't think you've lost a game since we started doing this thing.
No, I don't think we have. Certainly not a league game. I think it was just Celtic we lost to in the cup, but long may it continue.
You can find a new co-host. Anyway, we'll get started. Welcome everyone to the Salt and Sauce podcast. Two best friends supporting either side of Edinburgh's footballing rivalry. Robert representing Hibs and myself representing Hearts. Before we get started, though, we've obviously got a lot to talk about from the weekend and looking at the rest of the season. Robert, do you want to do a quick shout out for the first of our two sponsors?
Yeah, so AW Decor, taking care of all your painting and decorating needs. The lads do a great job. Did my own house when I was living in Scotland, and they did a great job at a reasonable price. So hit them up if you have any painting or decorating needs.
Thank you, Robert. Yeah, no, the other one we've got is Mint Box Removals. Also, another good bunch of guys local to Edinburgh and the surrounding regions who will get you wherever you need to go in terms of moving house or moving in or out of storage, whatever you need. So their details will be on the screen. Just give them a shout. Um, Rob, I think we'll start with the more positive news story from the weekend. You guys were in action on Sunday against Dundee, and it wasn't quite 6-0, but you managed to scrape by.
We did indeed, we did. I was making a joke with some of my Hibs mates, and I was like, this is how Celtic must feel. We
Right.
turn up and we just do the job and we just win, and you just look forward to the next game. Um, but it's a really welcome change. The players showing consistency and they're motivated, even though it was just Dundee coming. There's a lot on the line for us for third place still, um, and it would have been easy for us to have, I guess, not taken it seriously. Dundee are second bottom and just thought they could turn up, and Hibs teams of old have done that, and they've paid the price for that. So to see us from the first whistle really just take the initiative in the game, high tempo, it was really nice passing stuff, 1-2 touch stuff. Players full of confidence all over the pitch. Even the guys that we've slated at the start of these podcasts, the likes of Miller, Bashiri, um, they're playing out of their skin right now.
Now,
So
I know that Bashiri scored a brilliant goal. I think did Miller get two assists? He's only got at least one. And
yeah,
he apparently just, I mean, I saw the highlights. It's always better when you see the full game.
yeah,
Apparently, they were two of your best players.
yeah, they were. And to be fair, over the piece, and really since I slated Miller, he's played some of his best football for him. So maybe he's been listening, and that's given him the kick up the backside. But you
Fancy,
know,
fancy slating Lauren Shankman for a little bit?
no, 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 he must stay. We want him to sign an idiot. Um, but look, we again, moment the game started, I just had a feeling I was like, we're right up for this, and Dundee are going to find it difficult to live with us. And then we got a reward um, early enough, just a corner coming, whipped in. I think it was Boyle whipped it in, and Bashiri's just really poor marking from Dundee. But again, you put it into a dangerous area, and Bashiri's just really nice finish, hooked it into the goals, and you're just thinking like brilliant moment we go 1-0 up, you're thinking, right, let's get the second right after. Now, it didn't quite work out like that. We could have and should have finished them off a lot earlier. But Dundee really offered nothing. I think Simon Murray had a shot in the first few minutes in the first half, and apart from that, like they really offered very very little. They couldn't live with us. Um, and then the second goal was Bowie. Um, and again, this just shows, I guess, the strength and depth we now have, that we can bring on Bowie, Gale, um, Campbell. We can bring these guys on and take the likes of Levitt off, take the likes of Boyle off and things, and really rotate the squad. But not be weakened. We brought Nicky Cadden on, didn't even start him. Obita kept his place. I thought we might bring Cadden in. But again, Gray got it spot on. He got his tactics spot on. He got his subs timing spot on, and just everything kind of we're doing right now is going in the right direction. So Bowie goal, I think it was Miller, I want to say, makes a run down the byline, cuts it across. Really lovely first time finish by Bowie. He's got such a nice left foot. Just knocked into the top corner. And then when the second goal went in, that's when the points are safe. So we could relax a little bit. And then Dwight Gale's come on, and again, awful defending from Dundee, but he scored a really, really nice finish. Doesn't panic and just strokes it into the bottom right corner. And then the fourth, we brought Nicky Cadden on, and again, he does what he's been doing all season. He's been given space, which I'm sure Tony Duck can't believe, because surely they worked on that. He's given the freedom of Easter Road to whip it on his left foot, finds Bowie, and Bowie heads it in. So, all in all, just a really satisfying performance. No thrills, no letting Dundee back into the match. We just they couldn't live with us, and couldn't live with our subs either when they came on. So
It's the sort of game that you mentioned earlier that Hibs could quite easily over the years have drawn or lost.
yeah,
But actually, I also think what was quite telling is it's also the sort of game that even if Hibs had won, they might have won it like 3-2 in the past.
yeah, exactly.
Whereas, as you say, and actually I quite like the way you phrased it, talking about it was like being a Celtic fan.
Yeah,
Don't get me wrong, it's never boring when your hearts are Hibs or Aberdeen or Dundee United and you're on a run like Hibs are on. It's never boring. But the difference is Celtic and Rangers maybe a while back is that things like that would happen all the time. 16 games unbeaten is nothing for
yeah.
them.
No,
But
that
it's a massive deal for Hibs. It's a massive deal for any club outside of those two. So it's it's a boring routine victory that is neither boring nor routine given
exactly.
what you're going through.
And I celebrated every goal, um, as if it was kind of Rangers or Celtic we were playing, because what's at stake for us? And it's so tight. Dundee United got their standard boring 1-0 yesterday. They just keep doing it. It's so annoying. I kind of want them out the race. Just so it's just obviously two teams you're fighting with, but fair play to them. They're finding a way of playing horrible football and getting results. So um, they got their 1-0, and Aberdeen dropping points was huge, because when I was watching that game and I was like, they're 2-0 up against 10 men, you're thinking, right, okay, there's a lot of pressure on this, but Aberdeen dropping points was really, really important, that we then followed it up with a win, and any win, but to do it in the style that we did. I think even Michael Stewart was saying this is the best kind of football he's seen in weeks. The way the Hibs playing, and yeah, look, we're playing Dundee. They're not great, but still they've something to play for as well. They've beaten us earlier in the season, convincingly actually. So we can only beat what's in front of us. So it was really, really important win. Every single game now, whatever way the split falls, each game is going to be like a cup final.
Yeah,
Um,
it's a big thing in favour of the split. When we talk about league reconstruction over the summer, but I think the split's great. I mean, look at the drama. We'll come on to Hearts in a second, but obviously Hearts, Motherwell, and St Mirren going into that final day of the 33 game season. Always something huge to play for, and actually because it's so tight at the bottom end, you were looking at the two out of those three who don't make into the top six. Like they need to be looking over their shoulders. So I think the split's a great thing. And as you say, Hibs are in the driving seat, obviously at the minute for third place. But you're looking at it now thinking it's not as if Hibs go and they've got like St Johnstone and Kilmarnock and Aberdeen have got Celtic and Rangers. You've all got the same fixtures coming up and you've all got each other. I think it's really exciting. And I mean, I suppose a neutral would put their money on Hibs because of their form at the minute, but it's not inconceivable that you lose to Dundee United and Aberdeen. Could easily happen, and suddenly you're disappointed with a fifth place finish.
Yeah, I would say the worst we're going to finish is probably fourth, to be honest.
Well,
Um, but third is definitely not given. We're effectively 4 points ahead with our goal difference just now going into the split. So I don't think it's a stretch to say we're favourites. I think it depends on the way the fixtures do kind of play out. Because like if we get Celtic away,
Well, I actually think your worst. I actually think your worst combination is Celtic and Rangers at home because you probably do still lose them. I know you've beaten both of them recently, but odds are you probably lose both those games and Dundee United and Aberdeen away because suddenly those two fixtures become a lot harder. And actually, it makes it more likely you're looking at 4 out of 5 defeats then. I'm not saying you would lose to Aberdeen and Dundee United away, definitely, but you're more likely to. And suddenly that does put you in a bit of difficulty. So you're right. It totally depends who you visit,
yeah,
who comes
yeah.
to you.
In a way, you want Dundee United at Easter Road first game, and like if we win that and say Aberdeen lose theirs, for example, it's done. Because if we get a 6 point we get a 6 point lead, effectively seven with our goal difference, like I'd be confident in saying we're not going to throw that away. But it all just depends on kind of the way it falls. But I think you're right, sure. I'm a big favourite, and even Hibs lost out very similar to Hearts in the last couple of minutes last season. It hurts, it stings when you don't make it because like the thought of going to Dingwall and all the bottom six games and it's horrible.
That's what's and that's where you need to take your Hibs hat off for a minute at that point, or indeed myself at the minute a Hearts hat, and say
Yeah,
actually for the neutral
yeah,
and for pure league excitement,
yeah,
there has to be winners and losers. And
yeah,
last season it was or was it last season?
yeah. Last
Yeah,
season
it was
we
last season.
like dying seconds,
Yeah, last season it was Hibs. This season it was Hearts and Motherwell, and that's what the split brings. So fair dues.
and I guess the thing is like Celtic or Rangers are going to win the league every year, bar some Saudi guy coming in and blowing billions up Aberdeen, Hibs or Hearts. Like it's not going to happen um, unless there's a freak Leicester season in there, which can happen, but. Like in general, that's going to be the pattern that things are going to take. So the fact that there is a top six and we've got the playoff as well, it just keeps things exciting. And like, look at that. We've few teams going for third. We've the relegation places, the playoff position, like they're not set in stone either because the bottom six teams are so inconsistent that it could go right to the wire, right to the last game, and it just keeps things exciting for the rest of the teams.
And again, they're playing each other. But you look at the English league. I mean, relegation done, league
Yeah,
title done.
yeah,
The thing that they're clinging on to now is a battle for the top four. And even then,
yeah,
it's like, other than Nottingham Forest being in there, it's your big traditional clubs that have been there for the last few years. But again, it's all money. Chelsea, since Abramovich years ago, have had
yeah,
money. Man City, obviously money. Newcastle have
yeah.
got more money than anyone. Like it's just dull.
Yeah. It is. It's boring. It's a boring league, the English league. I think we've said that before. Whereas you look at the games in Scotland, and more often than not, there's drama, there's red cards, there's mistakes, there's lots of goals in them. I'm just bored by the English Premier League, to be honest. The Scottish League, for all its downfalls, it's exciting and it's passionate, and there's still that kind of, I want to say, like feral
Aye.
element to it
Yeah,
where
it's
you go away to Motherwell or you go to Tynecastle or you come to Easter Road and there's still that passion. It's not everyone on their phones and
yeah.
looking up the club's history before they go along to the games. So I'm a big favour of the split.
And if you saw somebody at Edinburgh Derby with a half and half scarf,
Ah, the firing squad.
Right. Anyway, speaking of half and half, we'll move to the other half of Edinburgh.
Yeah,
Obviously, really disappointing for Hearts. You don't need me to tell you how it feels. You know how it feels. What frustrates me is there's a few things I'll say in defence of Critchley. One, his points per game is pretty much the same as David Gray. I think David Gray's is 1.57. Critchley's is 1.56. It's better than Jimmy Tilleen's. Um, Obviously, what helps him in that regard is it was Naismith that had Hart's bad spell, whereas David Gray was there for Hibs' bad spell at the start. But but that's all you want Critchley to do is come in and change the form. So he's definitely done that. Um, but the thing that annoys me is we obviously needed to win because St Mirren playing Ross County were always going to be favourites for that game. Yes, okay, Ross County could have, in fact, very nearly did draw it. They were in the lead. It was 2-2 with like 10 minutes to go, roughly. So of course, yeah, of course we could have scraped through, but surely just Motherwell not in great form. Hearts, more expensive, better assembled squad. Yes, there's big gaps. I'll talk about in a little bit, but we should be beating Motherwell. So I think what frustrates me is just that we didn't go for it, and it reminds me of what's happening quite a few of the big games this season. Bar one, I would say where we've just not gone for it enough. And if I go back to the Edinburgh Derby, I know Hibs very much deserved their win in the end, but we could have, we had you for a while, and we could have really put a bit of pressure down, put the foot on you a little bit, and stopped you from coming back into it. But we didn't. We didn't, and as much as Hibs deserved their way back into it, from a Hearts point of view, we need to look at, well, how did we let them do that? And we did let them do that. The only game where I think it was a pretty big game where we actually went out, played a bit of football, scored a few goals was the quarter final against Dundee, and I thought we were very much worthy of the victory that night. Played really really well. Weathered any little storm that they produced. I know we've just spoken about Dundee not being great, but Scottish Cup quarter final is always a big game. It's the only one where I think Critchley's really passed the big game test. There are some things we're definitely playing better than we were before he came in. Overall, we're still missing the same things that we were missing before, and that is somebody really putting the ball in it. Kabangu's gone off the boil a little bit. We're missing pace massively. Really, really missing somebody that can go in behind and get teams turning. Like we had with Janelli a couple of years ago. He was brilliant for that. Um, But he has improved the way we play. Like I say, there's points per game. There's the league table since Critchley took over. These things count in his individual favour. But the thing you have to look at over the course of the season is that we're not in the top six. We won one of our last five pre-split. We've not scored, I think, 3 games in a row. So it's hard to put a case together to say that we deserve to be in that top six. It's really difficult to do that. So I'd say that part of me buys into that defensive Critchley a little bit, but moving away from stats and numbers and just going based on like feeling as a football fan, am I inspired by him? Not massively, probably not enough to think that he's going to be like a long-term good manager for us. And then just looking at the season as a whole, of which Stephen Naismith takes a bit of responsibility, obviously just really disappointing, and we better hope that we go and win this semi-final.
Yeah, I think there's a lot riding on that for Critchley. I don't know if it'll, if you lose, if he'll be sacked. I don't know if it'll be that bad. I think he'll be
Yeah.
given the summer to rebuild, no matter kind of what. But
I
when we
wouldn't say no
started
matter.
this
Sorry,
podcast,
to jump on that quickly. Sorry, I wouldn't say no matter what. If we got knocked out the semi and then actually got dragged into a bit of a battle for the
well,
playoff, I think you get to the end of the season and then maybe.
yeah, like I'm talking that Hearts will probably be safe. I think
Yeah,
was
yeah,
it
yeah,
6 points and a better goal difference going into the split. So I look, it happened to Hibs a few seasons ago when you've nothing to play for and players down tools, professional players can, stranger things can happen.
yeah.
But I'm talking that I do think Hearts probably will be safe enough. Um, but if you were to lose the semi final and a Jambo I used to work with, who I was messaging, he sent me something from Kickback, and it was saying the majority of the fans on there anyway want Critchley out. I actually think and from what I've seen, and this is why I thought Hearts would be pushing for third place when we started this podcast. Things were close. Hearts were in the ascendancy, like Hibs. They were on a similar run of form, but I did say that this weekend I thought they just left it too late, and based on what I've seen from Hearts, they're not scoring enough goals. And if you don't
No.
score enough goals, you can play all the nice football in the world. Said it about Montgomery as well. He was all about possession football, brilliant until we get to the final third, and what separates you from the likes of County, Dundee. When you get to that final third, you've got players that can then put the ball in the back of the net, and that's where Hearts have let themselves down, really.
Massive, and quite why we didn't sign anyone in the summer oh sorry, in the winter there. But I know we did have Kabanga who started doing that, and that coincides with our good run of form. I actually think even right at the start of the season, don't get me wrong, there were a couple of awful games that were just awful in every aspect, but there were a few games where we were playing decent football, and it's a bit of a Cathroism, but if you, like in between the two boxes, we were always
Yeah,
by far and away the better team. But
yeah,
it's like you say, one of the big things is putting the ball in the net, and that's why we've had two really good seasons because Shankland has been better than anyone at doing that. And it's funny, I always think if you lose a big player to injury, you can count down the days to when they come back.
yeah,
But when you have a drop off in form like Shankland's had this season, um, it's you, it's hard to cater for that because what do you do to
yeah,
bring him back? Do you keep playing him and hope that it'll come around? Do you drop him to send him a message?
yeah,
And I don't know what the full story is with Shankland because there's been times when I'd look at his attitude a little bit as well. But I mean, we basically lost our 30 goal a season striker. Didn't get any money for him, and
yeah.
he
And
that.
he's still there.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, we've lost him.
No, look, I think the drop like Rocky Bashiri's on the same amount of goals as Shankland.
Yeah,
I mean, that's
exactly.
there's a stat for you because before the season, you're looking at it and you're going, well, Shankland's going to bang them in again for Hearts. You can hang your hat on that. You're worried about the derbies. You're worried about, his goals alone propelling Hearts up to
Oh yeah.
third. But I don't know. I think it's his attitude, form, confidence, and I don't think he's given his all. Like I just don't. I don't see the same player that was there last season.
No, and part of me is grateful for the two seasons that we had for him. But
Yeah,
again, like even just looking at it objectively, form has dropped off a cliff. So that's a big loss of goals, and it's what's massively been missing from our team is that ability to put the ball in the back of the net. And I think it's what is why we're in seventh and Hibs, Dundee United, and Aberdeen are up contesting for Europe. Why we're missing from there. But that said, I do have a question for you because no doubt Hibs. I mean, what a ridiculous season from your start to now. Um, and obviously, if you do end up getting third, then it'll be well deserved in the end. But if Hearts go on and finish, let's say they do finish seventh, and it's a fine um, post-split run of fixtures, and we win the Scottish Cup, would you swap your season? Hibs finish third, but no trophy.
I always would take trophies over league places.
I think so. Yeah.
Always, I have to be honest. Um, Trophies are what you remember. Trophies are particularly outside of Celtic and Rangers, like the days you live for. Like
Yeah.
when we won it in 2016, that will stay with me for the rest of my life. That I was there when Gray headed it, and my dad's there, and just the way it was done. They're the moments you live for. So I'll always take a trophy. I'd finish second bottom and go in a playoff and win a trophy over like finishing third.
Yeah. That's you're right though. Like if you take your 3-2 against Rangers trophy, and actually, am I right in thinking you didn't get promoted that season? But
No,
I mean, I don't know. I'm not a Hibs fan, but I imagine you didn't really care.
we didn't care in the
And
end.
when I put that into context,
Yeah,
obviously we've got a big ask to actually go and win the cup. We need to beat Aberdeen and probably Celtic to
yeah,
do that. But um, it makes me think that this season could actually still be a brilliant season if Hearts walk away with the Scottish Cup.
yeah.
You'll remember that. So clinging on to that a wee bit, and it does make me just think, could at the end of the season, could we still potentially rescue a season that Hibs would rather have had than their own?
Yeah, I don't think there's much chance because
No,
at,
probably.
at some point you're probably going to play Celtic, even if you do get past Aberdeen, which like it's a real 50-50 game. Aberdeen possibly slight favourites because just they maybe got a bit more of the feel good factor going on and
Oh,
there's
yeah,
more goals.
definitely, definitely. No,
But
definitely, and that even that frustrates me. But no, you're right. I think it's unlikely, but you've got to be in it to win it, and we are still in it. So let's let's go do the business against Aberdeen and then see what happens.
Okay, score prediction.
I think we'll win after extra time.
Okay.
2-1.
I think Hearts are going to scrape it in normal time. I think you'll do enough. I think it's there's enough to play for Hearts still that I think things may come good for you at the weekend, but I think I don't think there's a chance you're winning it. I think Celtic are going to
No, no. I mean,
turn up for a treble and a party and in the final, but for this game, I think you'll do enough to beat Aberdeen. I don't think Aberdeen are great, by the way, and I don't think Hearts are either. Um, but I just think that I've just got a feeling that Hearts it'll be a Hearts Celtic final. I
yeah,
don't know
and
why, but I just do.
it's. I completely agree that obviously Celtic will almost certainly win it. I mean, 99%. But again, it would be nice to get to a final.
Yeah,
Uh, would I take runners up in the Scottish Cup versus top six? I mean, that's a different conversation at that point. But I mean, probably not.
no,
In fact, almost certainly not. But aye, look, it is what it is. Um, Hearts don't deserve to be in the top six. Hibs deserve to be where they are. They have earned that. It's just been a bit of a funny season for it all.
yeah,
Like I said, though, Critchley could rescue it if we end up comfortably coming seventh and looking at him from a manager's point of view, even runners up, because I don't think there's any shame in losing to Celtic in the
yeah,
final. You're probably saying he's done enough to earn to stay in the job. Like I say, that points per game thing is you're hoping for next season reason enough to have a bit of belief.
yeah, yeah. I agree. Um, I don't know. I think Critchley could come under serious pressure.
Yeah,
You lose next week. I think there's going to be a lot of calls for the Hearts board to reconsider from the fans.
I was actually going. I was going to go back to your point that your man that said over half the fans want him gone based on
Yeah,
what he's back. I wouldn't buy into that. I wouldn't read into that too much purely based on like it's these things can be echo chambers. It's like going on
yeah.
Twitter and saying,
No, they're emotive, and it's right after you've missed out in the top six, so it's
but
maybe not the time to ask, but
it's also the people who are posting are the people who have really strong opinions.
yeah,
They
yeah,
want to say, and it's the same on Twitter. You get
yeah, yeah, yeah,
lots of extreme views, but very few middle of the road views.
yeah.
And so you'd be forgiven for thinking everyone in the world is either a right wing extremist or some lefty
No,
loony.
no, I agree, but I think the fact Hearts had it in their
Yeah,
control
yeah,
to finish top six, you didn't score in 180 minutes of football in must-win games, really, and I think the Derby record, the big game record, Hearts haven't turned up, and I think all of that, and I think the sentiments I'm getting are that if Aberdeen do knock Hearts out this weekend, that's Hearts' season effectively over.
Well, oh, I mean, it absolutely is over. Yeah, of course it is. But no, you're right. And the areas for improvement for Critchley are clear. And if they weren't there, you'd be well. You're talking about he's a brilliant manager at that point. But the areas for improvement are absolutely clear, and that is to start winning some of these big games. And let's see what happens in the summer and look at next season. But
Yeah,
for now, it's just all in on the Scottish Cup.
and I'll be looking out the sheep and my Aberdeen woolly hat.
You support Aberdeen, are you?
Too right, too right. I don't want
Well,
Hearts to win anything.
on
And is
that,
they take our? Would you not take our group spot as well?
what's that?
Would you take if Hearts win the Scottish Cup? Do you not?
Oh, right. Oh, I see.
I
Actually, I
think
meant to look that
I
up.
think you do.
I don't
I
know,
think
but
you do.
that would be
So
funny.
I don't want that to happen. So yeah, quite happy for an Aberdeen comfortable win this weekend, Stuart.
On that very childish note, we'll drop it for this weekend. And Rob, we'll catch you next week.
Okay, see you next week.
Right.